Welcome everyone to another episode of Retro Wrestling Reviews. Fredo Esparza here, and this week we look back at Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling's February 6, 1982 show. But before we get to the review, be sure to click that subscribe button. We'll have more wrestling show reviews as well as the Lucha World podcast and other content available on this YouTube channel. This episode was taped on February 3rd, 1982 at the WPCQ studios in Charlotte, North Carolina, and aired on February 6, 1982. Bob Caudle and David Crockett are on commentary. Jimmy Valiant joined them at the start of the show. He talked about all the big boys avoiding the boogeyman. He pointed out Ivan Koloff being afraid of him. He wanted Koloff to give him some action and felt Koloff's ears might not be working. Sandy Scott then joined them to talk about the NWA World Tag Team Title Tournament. He said several tag teams were putting up the $1,000 entry fee and entering the tournament. They announced Ric Flair would be on the show. Piper would be wrestling on the show, and David Crockett said that maybe Piper would let them know who his tag team partner would be. First match had Austin Idol and Ivan Koloff beating Dom Gilbert and Vinnie Valentino after Idol pinned Gilbert after a backbreaker. Idol actually tried to pick him up before the 3 count, but the referee completed the count and called for the bell to be rung. Idol and Kolov dominated most of the match, which was pretty much not much to this match. Idol and Kolov, like I said, dominated, and it was a weird finish just because it kind of looked like Idol was going to continue punishing his opponent, but for whatever reason, they referee counted it exactly, and that was the end of the match. Ricky Steamboat then joined Bob Caudle to talk about Ric Flair. They showed a video of Ric Flair versus Jay Youngblood that was joined in progress. This was an NWA World Heavyweight title match. Ray Stevens and Roddy Piper were on commentary for this match. What aired of this match was great. Match ended in a draw due to the time limit expiring. This had some good back and forth action, as you would expect from Flair versus Youngblood. Youngblood caught Flair with a leg takedown after they ran the ropes for a bit. Flair broke out cleanly, but started arguing with the referee David Hebner. Youngblood countered a whip into the ropes by Flair and caught him with a drop kick. Jay slammed Flair and Flair backed away. Flair yelled at the referee again and then shoved Jay out of the corner and then strutted. They got near the ropes and Flair broke cleanly, but Jay delivered a hard chop across Flair's chest. Back into the corner, and Flair delivered some punches and elbows at Youngblood. Jay fought back and tossed Flair into the turnbuckles. Fans cheered loudly for Jay Youngblood. Youngblood tackles Flair out, but on his second attempt, Flair tossed Jay to the outside. Ricky Steamboat's nearby watching the match, and Flair yells at him not to get involved. Flair suplexes Jay back into the ring and followed that up with an elbow drop and went for the figure 4 leg lock on Youngblood, but Jay went for a small package roll-up for the pin. Flair escaped. He whipped Youngblood into the ropes and missed a chop. Jay went with a cross body block and got a 2 count on Flair. Jay then went with a double chop on Flair. Flair kicked out and slammed Youngblood into the turnbuckle. Flair went for a suplex, but Jay escaped and shoved Flair into the ropes and went for another roll-up on Flair. Flair kicked out at 2. Jay with a hard chop, and he went for another small package on Flair right as the bell was ringing, signifying the end of the time limit. Flair then got back up and attacked Youngblood. He chopped at Jay's chest. Referee tried to stop Flair, but he got shoved out of the way. Ricky Steamboat ran in and told Flair that the bell had rung and time had expired. Jake Roberts, Vinnie Valentino, Terry Taylor, and Tim Horner all ran in to stop Flair from continuing his attack on Jay Youngblood. This was a great match. They returned to Ricky Steamboat talking about how great that match was and how he's a top contender to Flair. He also mentions Tommy Rich and Jay Youngblood as top contenders and good guys. Ric Flair then joined Bob Caudle for an interview. Flair said that any man in pro wrestling would be a fool not to admit they want to be the NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He said the title means $500,000 in prestige. He said that the deal with Youngblood was that he never heard the bell ring. He said it makes no difference if it's Youngblood, Rich, or Steamboat. He will defend it against any of them. Caudle tells Flair if they have tape of Tommy Rich that they will be airing. They air video of Tommy Rich versus Tony Russo with the match already joined in progress. Flair and Caudle do commentary during the match. Rich won the match with the Thesz press. Flair said it always gives him great pleasure to beat Tommy Rich. Flair then cuts a promo about how he used to talk about his lifestyle before winning the world title. But now everyone can imagine how much better it is that he is now that he is a world champion. Next match was Private Jim Nelson beating Blackjack Mulligan Jr. by DQ. After Blackjack Jr. tossed Nelson over the top rope. This was another good match on the show. Sergeant Slaughter showed up early in the studio to watch the match. Nelson went outside to get some advice from Sarge. Mulligan Jr. caught Nelson with a dropkick as he returned to the ring. Nelson went back outside. Nelson pulled Blackjack Jr. by the hair in an attempt to get control of the match, but Jr. countered and caught Nelson with a fireman's carry takedown and into a headlock. Nelson escaped and went after Blackjack Jr. with some elbows. Private Nelson continued to attack Mulligan Jr. and got him with a hard slam, but Blackjack Jr. fought back. Jr. then whipped Nelson into the ropes, but Nelson held onto the ropes and Mulligan Jr. missed a drop kick. Nelson went for a slam and a pin attempt. He got Jr. in a backbreaker and another pin attempt, but Jr. kicked out. Slaughter yelled at Nelson to put Blackjack Jr. in the Cobra Clutch. Fans start to yell. Nelson got Mulligan Jr. in the Cobra Clutch, but Mulligan Jr. rolled out of the hold. He whipped Nelson across the corner and chopped him. Blackjack Jr. then tossed Nelson over the top rope and was DQ'd. Blackjack Jr. then challenged Sergeant Slaughter to get in the ring. Sarge then took off his hat and sunglasses and started moving towards the ring, but then backed away. After the match, Blackjack Jr. said Slaughter's star pupil tried to get him in the Cobra Clutch and he broke out of it. He challenged Sergeant Slaughter to wrestle him anywhere again. Roddy Piper then joined Bob Caudle, and Caudle asked Piper if he was going to tell everyone who his tag team partner was going to be, and he told him that he would not say anything. Piper talked about the NWA World Tag Team Title Tournament. He said he didn't make it in wrestling by talking and refused to say who his tag team partner would be. Sergeant Slaughter then came out and said he doesn't know who he is more upset with, whether it's Private Jim Nelson or Blackjack Mulligan Jr. He said that he isn't afraid of any man, and Mulligan Jr. got out of a Cobra Clutch, but not Sergeant Slaughter's Cobra Clutch. Austin Idol and Ivan Koloff then talked about teaming up and told Caudle that it is none of his business how often they will be teaming up. Ivan Koloff said this tag team tournament is the biggest event in wrestling history. Koloff also said that as far as a Mid-Atlantic TV title goes, he will take on all challengers, including Jimmy Valiant. Up next, Jake the Snake Roberts beat Buck Branigan with a knee lift for the pin. Ray Stevens joined Bob Caudle on commentary. This was an okay match, with Branigan getting in some offense on Roberts. However, Roberts was able to cut Branigan off every single time and won pretty easily. Vinnie Valentino and Don Gilbert followed with an interview. They talked about the NWA World Tag Team Title Tournament. Caudle mentioned they have two tag teams in the ring right now. He notices Roddy Piper has a tag team partner and asks who it is. Roddy Piper went to the commentary desk and told Caudle that he found a man to team with and found him while looking around under bridges. Piper said he can win the next match on his own, so he goes up against Keith Larson and Tony Anthony in a 2-on-1 handicap match. Piper won the match after suplexing Larson and covered him for the pin. Piper was pretty wild as usual in the match. Lots of hard chops and forearms from him against both of his opponents. After the match, Bob Caudle asked Roddy Piper why they didn't see his partner in action. Piper told him that he doesn't need help from anyone. He says that he didn't even break a sweat beating up two opponents. He again refuses to say who his tag team partner will be in the tournament. And the show comes to an end. I thought this was a good and fun episode. The Ric Flair versus Jay Youngblood match that aired was great. Flair was also great during his interview and while doing commentary for the Tommy Rich video. The other good match on the show was Blackjack Mulligan Jr. versus Private Jim Nelson. That continued Blackjack Jr.'s feud with Sergeant Slaughter. The final segment with Roddy Piper wrestling in the handicap match was entertaining, especially since he did have his partner there, but just didn't feel any need for him to wrestle. Definitely a fun show to check out. It's available on the Peacock network. I mean, honestly, like what most of the what I've been reviewing between World Class, Mid-Atlantic, and Mid-South can be found in some form on the Peacock network in the WWE section. You know, unfortunately, it's not the original. It's There's some stuff that you'll find that like music and because of copyright and whatnot is removed or dubbed. They have some other type of music dubbed over it. So, but if that, I mean, there's still enough for you to find some value in watching these shows, because for the most part, I haven't watched Mid-South on there since most of the Mid-South that I've been reviewing has been from stuff that I got from the Watts family was selling Mid-South content on a website, on their website, before they sold to WWE. But the rest of the stuff I'm mostly watching off WWE Network, or Peacock as it is called now. You know what I'm talking about. That's it for this review. Be sure to subscribe to the Retro Wrestling YouTube channel, and we'll be back again soon with more reviews.